Welcome to Miss Martin Muses. Welcome to Miss Martin Muses, where we muse upon what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really, really ticks me off. Well, today we are talking again about something that makes me very, very, very happy, and that is the Lord of the Rings, more specifically, the Fellowship of the Ring. The Fellowship of the Ring. And I have with me the Viking, all the way from Viking land, the man himself, E. Kenobi.
Hi.
Hello there. And we had Lady Toriel, and she got called off to Elfland to confer at Rivendell or something. And hopefully she will be back. We're thinking an internet mishap. Well, and welcome to all those that are now going to be coming in, maybe listening to the replay. Hope you had a great week and are enjoying these live streams and enjoying, most importantly, reading the Lord of the Rings. There are so many things we have right now that suck, but we can always go back to what is good, and that is what we are doing here. So last time we were doing our live stream with Lady Gravemaster, we were talking about Tom Bombadil and many aspects of him, but there was a final incident with him, a final chapter where he comes in and saves the hobbits. So that's what I wanted us to start looking at today, is what happened. First of all, what happened to the hobbits, and then how Tom Bombadil saved him, and then what the hell even happened with it. He comes along singing a song. So, Steve, what do you make of this?
To be honest, I thought all the singing in the Lord of the Rings was a bit pansy. You know?
Ouch.
People are in mortal danger and blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't be singing, should you?
No, I guess not, except for the fact that in this case, the hobbits got caught by this, gosh, what was it called? The blight thing? Or, gosh, I had it up.
Barrow White.
Thank you, Barrel White. And the singing actually was a plot point, because that's what summoned Tom Bombadil and defeated the bad guy. So, and you thought that was girly?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's gonna eat us. Let's sing for help. You know?
Well, except for the fact that in Tolkien's lore, that is actually a thing. In the Silmarillion, even the power that brought forth all of creation was music and song.
Yeah, but these are like 4 chubby hobbits sitting in a hole singing, you know? I don't buy it.
Sorry about that. My microphone's been acting up. Fair enough. Fair point.
I mean, if that's all it takes, they could have just sat down and sung a bit every time they were in danger, and Bombadil would show up. So almost like a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, sorry about that. My microphone messed up again. Good point. Good point. Except at the end of the chapter, they made it clear that once they passed the borders there, that he wouldn't be able to help them more. So
okay, fair enough. But you know, I didn't like that bit. I still think the book is a 10 out of 10. But you know, I'm glad he isn't in the movies, because he messes up the plot a bit, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they've spent 100 pages telling us, you know, how evil the ring is. Don't mess with it. Then he shows up and juggles it. It castrates the threat of the ring, almost.
Yes. Except they make it very clear that Tom Bombadil is a man out of time, him and his wife. That he even says that he was the eternal. He was even there before the ring, before the darkness, before the elves. So
Yeah, well, still, um, elves that were born before the ring was made are still corrupted. So,
but he was before the elves too.
yeah, I know, but still,
Yeah.
being born before doesn't seem to protect anyone else.
No. It doesn't look any good. Well, Tolkien himself said in his letters that Tom Bombadil was an enigma, almost a puzzle, and perhaps even a symbol. I don't want to put words into Tolkien's mouth, but a lot of people have interpreted it as having a bit of Eden into it of before the fall.
He pulled him out of his ass, and it doesn't fit.
Yikes. Well, Bombadil did first show up as a poem that he wrote, what, like 20 years before the book came out? Yeah, The Adventures of Tom Bombadil. I've got it here. And it was published in an Oxford magazine. So maybe he himself doesn't even know where he came out of. Yeah, he says here, eldest, that's what I am. Mark my words, my friends, Tom was here before the river and the trees, the first raindrop, and the first acorn. I can grant your point, Steve, about maybe in the movie it may not have worked, but you're saying that you could even have done without him showing up at all.
Yeah. While I like the chapters themselves, I don't like him. It's just I fully understand why they didn't put him in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Ket says here, I've always suspected Bombadil was a manifestation of Iluvatar. Yes, and that's what a lot of people are saying. That especially all the talk about him being outside of time and being before all was created. That perhaps that's what he was going with. But Tolkien doesn't help. He doesn't help in his letters because he himself almost didn't understand what he was doing with Tom and these, which in a way shows his genius because sometimes writers don't know why things pop up and show up in their stories. But there is a practical part of it because after the singing and all that, after the singing happened, before Tom Bombadil sings sends them on their way, he actually gives them some gifts that later will play a key role. The one I'm thinking about is he gives to Mary. He gives Mary a special knife, and that's the knife that he uses to help Arwen defeat the Night King. Because did I say the Night King?
Not the Night King, the Witch King.
The Witch King. Gosh darn it. Wrong franchise. Yeah, because if it was the other franchise, Mary would have just flown through the air out of nowhere and would have saved it. But yeah, but he gives them gifts, and that's always a big part of these fantasies is they come bearing gifts, and he gives them that, and also his horses, his pony, the Hobbit's ponies get a level up. They get names, and they're a little more powerful, and that was also a cool part of it.
Yeah, and in the movies, Aragorn gives them the short swords.
Yes,
basically.
Yeah,
at the Weathertop.
Exactly, and they weren't necessarily special the way this was. Yeah, a blade of Westerness. Thank you, Shane. Exactly, and that almost like it had a certain extra oomph of power.
Yeah, they got D&D terms. They got some +1 daggers. Your microphone is acting up. Hi, Toriel.
My gosh, we are cursed. Okay, my microphone failed. I was actually talking through some of this. Well, welcome, Lady Toriel, and hopefully, Lady Toriel, when you get your sound and get all that worked out, we can bring you in on this. But yes, what I was saying is what you said about leveling up, that it gave them that extra
Who's
power.
listening to Beauty and the
Oh
Beast?
my gosh, the Beauty and the Beast show up.
Madness. This is madness.
I hate my life. I've been having problems with my phone. I mean, with my computer. It's been randomly popping up sounds. And yeah, all of a sudden, the stupid. I love Beauty and the Beast, but yes, my apologies. Whatever the point we were making was probably very fantastic about them getting the extra power of this blade of Westerness that would come later when they are going to be defeating the Witch King.
Remember when I said that the songs were pansy and all? And now the Beauty and the Beast starts playing? I was right all along.
Hashtag Steve was right. Well, it says here, it's like a Steve sandwich. Oh, wait, now we've got a double Lady Toriel. Let's see if. Son of a biatch. Here we go.
Hi.
Are you with us, lady?
There's two of them, the Silent Sisters.
Well, now there's only one. Holy moly! But it is a very nice. I guess it's would it be a steak sandwich or would it be a Lady Toriel and Teresa sandwich?
I don't
With,
know.
oh gosh, I was about to say something wicked. With steak is the meat, but all right. This is going south fast. So, final thoughts on Tom Bombadil. Pansy. I don't like that word. I don't think it's nice. But girly singing, pansy singing, and that's the context we're using here, as well as leveling up. They leveled up their horses and they ponies, and they leveled up their banner, sorry, their weapons, and that will come into play in the next big final battle in the Return of the King. And it shows that it's all one big story, really. You could almost read the whole thing as one big novel, and sometimes it is actually even published as one big novel. Well, let's move on. Because once they leave, finally for the very last time, once they leave Tom Bombadil and they have their weapons and they go to where Tom says, I cannot help you. Then they come to one of my favorite parts of the pre-adventure is Bree and the prancing pony.
Yeah, excellent chapter. The village of Bree is this is when the story starts getting a little bit dark, I guess, because you get to see people working against them.
Yes, and you really see that people are trying to frigging kill him.
Yeah, what's his name? Bill. Something.
Yeah.
Seems to be an agent of the enemy.
Yes. And
Ryan Kinnell is in the chat, being full of shit. He's saying he can't wait for the Amazon's Lord of the Rings. Ryan is drinking early this Saturday.
Yes, just say no to daytime drinking. Just say no. But yes, welcome.
Your microphone is out again.
I know my microphone went out again. This is a good point to say welcome to everybody in the chat, and we have Shane, who's always here. Thank you very much. We have Keck44. We have Tommy, the guinea pig project, and Ryan Kinnell, and he is full of garbage. Absolutely. No one is looking forward to the Amazon one, except for that dork who runs the OneRing.net, who somehow feels like he knows everything about Lord of the Rings and knows absolutely nothing. Okay, we think we have Lady Toriel for real. Hello.
Hi.
Or maybe not.
She's there, but there's no sound.
Okay.
She's with us in spirit, because if you don't have a wood elf, is it really worth living?
I don't know.
As you were saying that we were talking about, was he an agent of the evil one? And I think
Well,
he was.
I'm thinking if he's an agent of anyone, it's Saruman,
Oh,
because he
okay.
has spies and stuff everywhere,
You know
and
what?
he is looking for the ring, same as Sauron is.
You're right. I'd forgotten that they were actually kind of in league together, but not in league together. Because evil people, when they work together, they're always trying to stab each other's back, kind of like the Sith. They're just waiting to kill their master. So you think it was Saruman that also did, but it was scary. And when they arrive there, we first see this shadowy figure jumping over the fence. And at first, I remember thinking that it was the ring rays, but of course, we learned later that it was Strider. But before we get to Strider, they're supposed to be sitting there incognito, and they also and there's a very odd part where Frodo just decides to start dancing and singing and speaking, which, like you were saying, and I didn't know, was he drunk, or was it that some weird spirit of the ring was trying to get him to start prancing around
No,
singing and
they do that shit all the time, at inappropriate times. Really, it's like, oh, I'm gonna sing some.
yeah. Well, but in this case, I actually felt it was intentionally inappropriate, because what was happening was it was the ring kind of tricking him into that, because as he kept singing and he kept jumping around, and then he fell, and then what did he do? He put on the daggone ring, which of course was what the enemy wanted him to do.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird scene. I guess it's something you have to interpret.
Hmm.
You know, um, but like I said, it's the sometimes the singing or the timing of the singing seems very out of place.
Yeah. Okay, so you didn't buy the singing. And as we know, in the movie, they did not have that, and that was probably a good thing. They actually very sparingly used the songs. I think it would have been very odd if we'd have all of a sudden seen seen Elijah Wood start jumping around on tables and singing, and then kind of collapsing. And it was at this point that Strider then comes along and reveals himself to him.
Yeah, um, a very good introduction.
Yeah. I think it's one of the great introductions of a character, because at first you do genuinely think he might be a bad guy, because the innkeeper is very suspicious of him, and then and you don't know that if he's actually having some ill tidings or ill feelings toward Frodo. And then what ends up happening is quite the contrary. He is someone that knows Gandalf and all that, and that's also where we get that very famous letter that Gandalf had written, where all that is gold does not glitter. And I think that was a clue, if I recall correctly, to how that they would know that he was genuine. I'm looking this
Yeah,
up.
yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit of there's a hint there. Makes it go aha afterwards, but yeah,
Yeah.
uh, I think this chapter is solid, but like I said, the singing and dancing all of a sudden like is a bit out of it's weird, strange.
Okay. Okay, I'll grant your point. I'll grant your point. You don't about the singing and the dancing. If I just a station break, we're trying to figure out what's going on with Lady Toriel. I'm hoping maybe we can access her somehow. She's here, but something's happening. I guess where her microphone, she can't get a microphone going, and maybe she can get some stuff going on in the chat. Okay, what does Tommy have to say? Those sneaky innkeepers always need to be cautious around them. There is one story where the innkeeper either chops feet off or stretches them if they don't fit the bed. Oh my gosh. But it is a bit of a trope. That's a good point, Tommy, that in a lot of fantasy or in places, don't trust the dude who runs the motel. Don't trust the dude who's running the inn. They're usually, if they're not having bad ill will and intentions towards somebody, they are at least blabbermouths and they'll get you into trouble. So, yes. Oh, well, we lost her. Toriel, I hope we can find you again. Okay. Now, Steve, earlier when we were chatting, you had said something to the effect of, wait a second, pause. Are you with us, Lady Toriel? Dag nabbit. She's kind of here. Here with no sound.
Yeah, she keeps getting cut off, apparently.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. Okay. Shane Nolan says, remember the serial killer Holmes in Chicago, 19th century? A hotel killed thousands. Yes. He had literally a house of horrors in there. And yeah, would lure people in. And I think around like the big fair, the World Fair or something that was there. Yes. Yeah. Mind those innkeepers. And of course, we can't forget Psycho. Norman Bates. You lost an elf in the woods of YouTube. Yes, we lost our elf. And we lost our elf just before we're going to her home. Well, not her home, but near her home. To her people. Yeah, World's Fair. Yes, that's when it was. Oh, wait. We might have her here for real. Are you here for real? Well, not really. Okay. Well, if you can blink twice or something, Toriel, we'll see what we can do to help you out. But yeah, so they get there and then they meet Strider, who is, as we all agreed, more awesome than awesome. And he gets his own chapter. That's how awesome he is.
Yeah, and unlike the movies, he kind of tells you right away that he's a long lost king.
Yes, he does, doesn't he? It's like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm the king.
And in the movie, it's revealed a bit later.
Yeah,
at Rivendell.
I was about ready to say, I think it was even at the council of the ring. Yeah.
No, it's before that. It's when Boromir's looking at before Boromir's looking at the sword.
Oh, yes. But I don't know if the hobbits find that out. Yeah, but
the hobbits find out. Did he even find out?
I think
about it.
Good point. I'd have to rewatch that. That'd be everyone rewatch The Return of the King or Google.
Yeah, I think it's like after it's been revealed to the audience, all of a sudden the hobbits just know.
Yeah, I'll have to double check that. If anyone in the chat knows anything about that, let us know. Oh my gosh, Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective says it's a decoy elf sent from the innkeeper. Miss Martin Muses be wary. Oh my gosh, it really is not Our Lady Toriel. Okay,
I will. Trick. Get an axe.
Yeah, I don't have an axe. I do have a miniature Sting though. I got one of those letter openers. That's like
Oh,
Sting, and it's over my fireplace. I could run and get it. Okay. By the way, though, is this the best letter ever from Gandalf? And when he just keeps going on and on and on, and then he's like P.S. and then he's PPS, then he's PPPPPS. But before that, let's hear how he describes Strider. A man, lean, dark, tall, by some called Strider. Probably the best cast ever when they cast Viggo Mortensen in it. And
he was the second choice.
yeah, the first dude they got didn't work out. He'd like filmed for 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's a famous guy too. I keep forgetting his name though.
Yeah, he was the guy that was in the Queen of the Damned.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, and I think in general, probably the easiest thing to say about him was that he was too young for the role. Too young to begin the role. All right, it looks like Shane has come through. In the movie, they say he is Aragorn, son of Arathorn. You owe him your allegiance to Boromir. Yeah, I think that was at the council. Yes.
Yeah,
Shane, yeah.
yeah, that's when they say it. But they also say there's one who can unite the humans or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then it switches to Aragorn who's sitting there looking at the. He's reading, I think, and then Boromir shows up and messes
Yes,
with the sword.
that's precisely what it is. And that scene, by the way, was awesome. And I'm sorry, but Boromir and Aragorn in the same scene at night, one reading a book. I mean, come on, that's right there is some very beautiful things. And then Gandalf continue. I like the Gandalf signs with the little symbol, and then he goes, "P.S. Do not use it again." PPS, make sure it is the real striker. And then he says this poem. The all that is gold does not glitter, not all those who wander are lost. Just those first two lines are famous as hell. That's what people
Yeah,
think of. Yeah, when they think when they're quoting Tolkien. The old that is strong does not wither, deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken, a light from the shadows shall spring, renewed shall be blade that was broken, the crownless again shall be king.
that one is put into the, I think, the extended version of Return of the King when
Oh,
they're reforging the sword.
yes, I think you're right. Holy crud.
I think Liv Tyler is the one who says the words.
Yes, and she's like singing it, isn't she?
No, she's just saying it
Oh,
in
okay,
her
maybe.
dopey voice.
Oh gosh. I'd rather she sang it. Though apparently you don't like singing. My gosh. But that's a damn good poem. Tolkien's awesome. But of course the whole thing, all that is gold does not glitter, and not all who wander are lost. I mean, heck, you see that on luggage. You see that and then all that is gold does not glitter. I use it sometimes. Some maybe even some political commentaries. Remember, all that is gold does not glitter, and then vice versa. All that is glitter does not gold. But I think it's very clever of Tolkien that he took that and did an inverse of it. Oh,
Yeah.
Shane's confirming that it is Arwen, and there is Lady Toriel. StreamYards won't let me in. Yeah, I was about to say, Lady Toriel, I did just see you appear, but it would not let me add you. So I feel terrible about this. I don't know. I can fly over, but then by the time I try try to get you some better internet, but please feel free to comment in the chat, because we definitely want your input and insight. Yeah, Toriel was going to be our third guest, um, our very own wood elf. So it's not often that you get that in your chat. Oh, don't be sorry. It's not your fault. It's stupid technology. Yeah, Tommy says StreamYards is not kind or to slow or internet phones. You know,
Yeah, it's not phone friendly at all.
exactly.
I remember Mara used to have piles of problems
Oh
with
yes, I've heard her and
yeah.
her her temper against it. I've had hissy fits over inanimate objects more often than not. Um, I love it that Sam is sitting there being all protective, and he's like, "How do we know? You're not the real Strider. How do we know you're just not a play acting spy?" And Strider's like, if I had killed the real Strider, I could kill you. And I would have killed you without so much talk. I thought that was awesome. And then he goes, if I was after the ring, I would have it. And then all caps, now. And he stands up and pulls his cloak aside to show one heck of a sword. And then they all shut up and he goes, but I am the real Strider, fortunately. I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and if by life or death I can save you, I will.
Which they moved to the Council of Elrond scene in
Yeah,
the movie.
yeah. And I was just about to say, mic drop. I love
Which I
you.
which
If I,
I think they did that in the movie to make the audience kind of still unsure if we were to trust them or not.
yeah, there were very necessary changes they had to make in the movie for pacing and just for the rules of screenplays, and I can forgive them of all of that. And it might have even come across as hokey if they had done that just as I read, and he just suddenly stood up. But I am the real Strider, turn it into a Shakespeare thing. But it is Shakespearean. He's awesome. I love him, as I said, and I want to marry him. And if I were living in this book, I would assassinate Arwen and take him for myself. But
Hmm.
you know, neither here nor there. It's not real, so it's all okay. But I just think that is a great opening. And then, of course, the Black Riders come, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to A Knife in the Dark, which is creepy, creepy.
Haven't we skipped a bit though when the ring wraiths arrive earlier and is sniffing around while they're hiding under the tree?
Oh, probably.
Because that's probably the most iconic scene.
My bad. I'll slap myself on the wrist. Okay, when they arrive at the prancing at Bree.
No, they're hiding on the road.
Oh yeah, that was like chapters back. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, we skipped it.
I did skip it.
Shame, shame.
You can scold me all day if you like. I'm not afraid. Was there something you wanted to say about that?
No, I just realized we skipped it.
And you wanted to rebuke me. Okay, fair enough. I am soundly rebuked. Before we go on to The Knife in the Dark, though, Tommy, oh yes, I used to kick the blank out of my computer and phones back when my internet was better. Okay, and Shane says, yes, he does a few of those speeches often in like it's for a large audience, but there are only 2 or 3 people. Yes. I know. So it would look really bizarre if they were to do that. But yeah, it reminds me of almost like a Monty Python scene that it but it works in the book. It really does. But you're right.
Makes you wonder though if he had practiced them when he's alone.
It's like
one day I'm going to meet some hobbits and I need to make a good impression.
exactly. I will practice for my great moment. Oh, and Shane is agreeing. Shame, shame, shame. I will do penance later. But every time these stupid ring race show up, oh my gosh, they scare the crap out of me. And they talk more in the books. I'm coming up to this part where it's saying, "In the dark, without moon or stars, a drawn blade gleamed. There was a soft but heavy, and the door shuddered. Open in the name of Mordor," said a voice, thin and menacing. And then the black figures passed swiftly in. See, that's just creepy. That's the stuff that's made of Halloween stuff, you know? And then
the ring rates are a huge threat. I mean, one of them could kill the hobbits easily. You know?
Yeah.
Hello. Wait. Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes!
Hi. It works.
She heard we were going to meet the elves, so she had to join.
Oh, StreamYards hated me. It kept cutting me off.
Mm-hmm. Well, excellent. Well, so glad to have you. Everyone's happy to see you. Yeah, Tommy says, "I wish the cartoon version wasn't Disney for the first two parts and Rankin Bass did it all instead of just the last part." Oh, good point. Well, Lady Toriel, I know you've been trying to get in and out for a good deal of this time, but we're right now at the end of the Prancing Pony talking about Strider and his first impression. What is there anything that you'd like to add or say to any of the points that we've already been talking about?
You know what? She went there and back again.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I was ready to throw my phone on the floor. Strider is very different in the book than in the movie. The way he goes about it, I would say, is different. Vigo did a great job, and I know they had to condense a lot down in order to get everything, even though the movie was 3-something hours long. Excuse me. I'm still losing my voice. But you see a more commanding Strider in the book and start out.
Okay. Yeah.
It seems more in the book than in the movie. He kind of nudges them along in the movie. In the book, he's very take command.
Okay, you're breaking up a bit, but for what I hear you're saying that he's a more commanding presence and more forceful, if you will. More, you broke up a bit. I couldn't quite hear.
Yeah, in the book, is that any better?
Oh, much better.
Hopefully. Okay, in the book, he's more take charge. There's no. You see more sympathy for the elves, or for the hobbits, I guess, in the movie than you do in the book. He's more, shall we say, more aware of the threat, but yet he just keeps pushing. And
yeah, it's like in the books, he starts off as a leader, while in the movies, he develops into one.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It seems like he's always had that command, and I did hear part of the conversation where, he comes right out and says, da-da-da, I'm lineage of this, and I'm one of the men of Numenor and everything, that it's just put right out there. It's not like a big shock, but I know why they did that for the movie. That was so everybody could go, you know, in the Council of Elrond. So
yeah, I can understand and the decision they made, and as not Tommy, sorry, Shane was saying earlier, it would have been with Aragorn randomly making speeches to like two people in the room. it would have been a bit silly.
yeah, and the conversation of how the ring and everything came about. I mean, they had to. I understand that when they gave the description and everything. You know, where it starts off with Elrond and then goes to Bilbo and then it goes to Frodo. Then it goes, you know, then it goes to Gandalf. And that would have taken, oh, goodness gracious, a lot of time. So I understand why they condensed everything down.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Rivendell chapters are basically two very long chapters of info dumping, with a lot of history and ancestry and stuff that's you can easily chip away for a movie.
Yes, that's like when you were saying that was a great scene that they had with Aragon and Boromir with the broken sword. That, to me, that was better than the book because it gave it a little more emphasis, shall we say? Because in the book, he just pulls the two pieces out and shows them instead of being laid out and in a place of honor at Rivendell.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, no, that's exactly what they did, and they had to do that, and we understand that. I'm sorry, Steve, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. Yeah, and just to go back a little bit, where we were talking about the knife in the dark, the way it played out in the book when the ring race, when they broke in, there was an alarm called, and what do you call it? There was a fatty Bulgar was there, and people were they were calling fear, fire, foes, fear, awake, fear, fire, foes, awake, and all these horns were going off, and that actually chased the race away. And so they decided to go ahead and leave, and they said, let the little people blow, Sauron would deal with them later. They knew not that the house was empty, and the ring had gone. Yeah, so that was also a little bit ominous. So the ring race, we're talking about like the revenge that Sauron would exact upon the people that had done so. So
yeah, Sauron, shall we say, he mustered his hatred and never forgets, because he was an all presence, even though they thought he had left. It's kind of like Harry Potter and the oh, what were they? Where he takes part of his soul and puts it into the different pieces, so he could never die.
Horcrux or something.
Yes, the Horcruxes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's exactly what Sauron did. I mean, that's where she probably got the Horcruxes from,
Oh,
because
I
his
did that the other
essential.
day. I put a piece of my soul into one of my favorite Commodore 64 games just to see if it worked, and yeah,
yeah.
works fine.
Really? Mm. So Stieg will never die. That's
Yeah,
okay.
But
Okay.
Steve, you do realize that you would have had to have murdered somebody to do that.
yeah, she's in the freezer. The gypsy hooker. Anyway, carry on.
What? Oh my gosh.
Well, that's not good. Your evidence will find you out, as they say. This is 2021. They have great methods now.
Yeah, Big Brother's watching. Yeah, Shane says the spirit of Sauron endured. Yes, Rolling borrowed from that, aka stole. Yeah.
Yeah, she also stole the ring rights for the
Mm.
Mentors. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
come on.
Yes, yes.
And
You know, you can.
Hogwarts itself is very, very much like the wizard school in the Earthsea books, which she claimed to be a fan of. So there's a lot of
Yeah,
borrowing done there.
yeah. Ursa. Yeah, you can see all the different things that were going on. But yeah, he never forgets, and his essence was the ring. So he lay dormant long enough. Like they said, the ring has a will unto itself.
Yes.
And it was time for it to come back. So it was trying to find its way back.
Yes. Trying to find its way back to its master.
Mm-hmm.
And that describes so much of the effect that it had, as we talked last time about Bilbo and Frodo, and then even Frodo doing that weird dance and song at the prancing pony that forced him, that Stieg is so fond of.
He shouldn't have done that. It made me stop rooting for him.
Oh my gosh. Oh my.
I mean, let's face it, that was soy as hell. It's like he was doing his little stupid TikTok video.
Hey, that would have made an awesome TikTok video if it had
No.
that. Oh my.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there was a lot of that, that they didn't show in the movie, which was good because that was all, I liked it, and it was very charming, and you see it, in your head, and that's what Tolkien was so good at, making you see everything in your mind with his explanation of everywhere they went. You could picture the woods, you could picture Merwood, you could picture the evilness going on, the world building that he created. If you looked at the map in your mind, you could see all the places, not just by your eyes, but in your head, because he created all that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, precisely. Oh no, here we go. Shane Nolan, without a song or dance, what are we? ABA Swedish, I bet Stieg loves them. Well,
Fuck you.
ABBA.
Fuck you, your ancestors, and your future offspring.
Oh my
that's
God.
a little harsh.
Yeah.
But speaking of the songs do provide a touchstone in building the lore. Because later, when they leave after that and they're heading off to Rivendell, Strider, Aragorn talks about Gilgalad And then all of a sudden, Sam starts singing about Gilgalad, and they're all kind of astonished. And he talks about how, well, that's just a song that we used to sing, and I love to hear about elves. So a lot of these songs are not only the lore for us, they're also the lore for these characters.
Yeah, but if you think about it, though, as soon as someone hears a name or a random word, they start singing. That's not natural. Really isn't.
Well, they live in a time where they don't have cell phones, they don't have
I mean, come on.
So you mean, Stieg, whenever you mention a name, if we started bursting into song, you wouldn't appreciate that?
No, I would not.
All of a sudden, he'd go mute. You'd lose him in the chat. He'd be gone. But yeah, I understand where Teresa's coming from, because the lore building, I mean, they did have the written word, but a lot of the different peoples, races, went about things in different ways. So their lore was passed down through stories and songs.
Yes. Because that was all they had.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, though? What Toriel said about Middle Earth, how it seems like a real place because of the descriptions and all the background stuff and all the lore. This is why I'm such a stickler for lore, you know, in Tolkien's and Star Wars, whatever, what have you. It's there for a reason, you know. And the in any fantasy story, any good one, right? The world the story takes place in is the most important character, because it's the one that everyone interacts with, you know.
Yes.
So it has to be solid.
Yes.
I mean, the Lord of the Rings would be nothing without the deep lore of Middle Earth, and I bet you the Harry Potter books wouldn't be the same without all the stuff and the history of Hogwarts.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
That's very true, because if you don't connect, then you have no
touchstone, maybe.
No, you have what am I trying to say? You have no connection with the characters. You don't feel for them as much, because you need all the lore and to feel where they're at and to understand the world they live in. And without that world and the building of that world, you will have no personal connection to the characters.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And that's what happened with the Fantastic Beasts movies, that a lot of the fans are not liking them because they are actually rewriting the lore and things that were established in the Harry Potter books. And then they're acting like, no, that's the way it was. And everyone's like, no, it wasn't. So lore breaking doesn't... Yeah, like stuff... I don't want to get into too many details, but like characters that shouldn't even be born yet, they're bringing into the movies.
And you wouldn't feel as much empathy for Aragorn if the lore hadn't been there.
Yes. Precisely. And speaking of which, wow, what a segue. As they are out on their journey towards Rivendell, they're taking a little break, and Aragorn apparently has nothing better to do for 2 pages than to sit and sing a song. Steve's favorite. And it's much longer than it was in the movie. In the movie, they just did it for a few seconds and kind of almost under his breath. But yes, he sang the whole daggone song of Beren and Luthien, which he explains to them that Beren was a mortal man, and Luthien was a daughter of Thingol, a king of elves upon Middle Earth, and how they fell in love and all that. And she gave up her elf immortality, whatever, for Beren to marry him. This is building up for us and giving us a glimpse into what is Aragorn's current love life. Hashtag complicated, because he is also in a relationship engaged to an elf who has chosen to do that. So it uses the song to give us more insight into Aragorn. Even though Stig probably hates it.
Yeah, true. I don't like the singing.
Yeah. Would you like it if they just recited it?
No,
just not natural. But it is cool, and it's a cool poem. I mean, you can take these poems and just read them, and they're gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's actually built from the Silmarillion, but yet it was put in such a way that it wasn't so dry and bland as the way I look at the Silmarillion is the history book of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly, or almost like a history or a religious epic. The Lady Gravemaster said it was like the Book of Numbers, a very long Book of Numbers from the Old Testament.
Well, yeah, because it gives you all the background, and it's kind of like a must reading if you really want to get into the lore, and a lot of times why things are what they are in Lord of the Rings.
Precisely.
It's that book. It's like being in college, and it's the book you hate to read, but your professor makes you read it anyway.
Yeah. And you're secretly kind of glad you did, because you learned a lot. I actually enjoyed reading the Silmarillion, but I knew better when I started it that it was not going to be a book. And so I approached it as a history book. I wasn't expecting it to be.
Oh, you're like me. You're one of the two that actually enjoyed the Silmarillion.
Well, I actually did in context and in isolation. Understand that I was prepared for what it was, and I really did enjoy, especially his account of the creation using music. As a musician, I was just like, dude, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for everyone unless you already know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. Exactly what you're getting.
If you think it's going to be like Lord of the Rings, I'm sorry.
No, it's not for entertainment, but it's a great reference book. Well, and so after they do some singing, etc., the ring race do find them up there on the hill, or where they are.
Well, you know what? A few days before, a while before, they see lightning and stuff, spell casting on that hill.
Oh.
And we learned later that it was Gandalf was being attacked by the ring wraiths and fought them off.
Oh.
Cool. Yeah, if you go back to, I don't know, what is it, chapter, I want to say chapter 11 or something like that. That they were walking, and they see the lightning and everything, and they thought it was a storm, but then they realized it was coming from there, and yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That they later find out it was Gandalf.
Gosh, I haven't read this book in like 20 years. I've just been skimming back over this, but that is cool. I'm looking here. I can't find it in the book, but that's a good point. And it also shows how well crafted that Tolkien does is where everything's happening simultaneously. Especially so we find in the Two Towers, he does a lot of that because a lot of those, even though they were happening in different chapters, they were all actually happening at the same time. Well, cool. Good find. Well,
yes.
Yeah.
Good find, Steve.
Well,
But
then,
he interweaves his stories. Gee, kind of like Star Wars.
imagine that. Imagine that's actually kind of cool in a way to do a tale. Well,
Yeah.
So anyway, so when the race find them, I'm just going to skip over some of the action that went there. You find Sam shrank to Frodo's side. Frodo was hardly less terrified. He was quaking as if he was in a bitter cold, but his terror was swallowed up in a sudden temptation to put on the ring. So that's the thing. It's like against his will. Every time he's around these people, they try to make him forget that he's not supposed to put on the ring, and it's almost like he's compelled to do so. And then it says he shut his eyes and struggled for a while, but resistance became unbearable, and at last he slowly drew out the chain and slipped the ring on the forefinger of his left hand. And this is just where it gets really creepy, that the way he describes when Frodo puts on the ring, immediately, though everything else remained as before, dim and dark, the shapes became terribly clear. So when you don't have the ring on, there's shadows, there's terror and all that, but they became stark and he could see it, and he was able to see beneath their black wrappings. And they came upon him and pierced him with their swords as they ran towards him. And desperate, he drew his own sword, and it seemed to him that it flickered red as if it was a firebrand. Two of the figures halted. The third was taller than the others. His hair was long and gleaming, and on his helm was a crown. We're going to see that dude later. In one hand, he held a long sword, in the other, a knife. Both the knife and the hand that held it glowed with a pale light. He sprang forward and bore down on Frodo. Gosh, that sounds disturbing on several levels. But the part I wanted to emphasize here, at that moment, Frodo threw himself forward on the ground and heard himself crying aloud, "O Elbereth, Githanel." I'm probably mispronouncing that. So he calls out to Elbereth and
Elbereth.
Yep, thank you. Okay, you can say it better than I can. So again, part of the lore, and that even though there's not like great spirituality or anything akin to gods and stuff, they do call upon these ethereal beings from their lore, from their myths, at the moment that he is stabbed. And part of me wonders, is that part of what saves him? Calling out to that, is that what summons what saves him? I mean, Tolkien doesn't say, and he doesn't presume to spoon feed us that kind of stuff.
If you notice, did you ever wonder how he knew to even say that?
Good point. Now, the elf that they did run across did tell them, Gildor, he did say, "May Elbereth go with you or watch over you." So maybe he knew it from the elf tales or from the other elves.
Could have heard it from Bilbo.
Yeah.
Bilbo was kind of a little bit steeped in the lore.
Yeah. Well, what are you getting at, Lady Grandmaster? You think it might be something a bit deeper?
I'm not sure.
Editorial, not Grandmaster.
Oh my gosh! I am so sorry.
It's quite all right. everything is connected in Tolkien. So maybe it was an intercession by the elves because they were also connected to the ring, because Sauron tricked them long ago.
Yeah.
And there could be something deeper, or maybe he did hear it from Bilbo, you know. But it just seems funny that he would say that at the exact moment to call for help.
Yeah. Well, and one would argue help comes because that's where we get the elf that comes and initially saves him. I don't know. Just saying.
It isn't.
And it's not
Yeah.
Arwen.
No. No. But that was good. And they did a good job I think, in the movie with the CGI for the ring race.
Oh, yeah. That was pretty daggone awesome. Yeah.
And that was also Peter Jackson's wife that did the screams for the ring race in the movie.
Yes. Which is creepy as a
Yeah, when I found that out, it was like, well, I'm glad she doesn't scream at me.
What if she does that in bed, though? Holy crap.
Oh my gosh, no thank you.
No wonder he lost weight.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, but then, okay. But Glorfindel, this is a great segue into Glorfindel, the elf that's not Arwen, that comes to him, because he's one of those badass elves that shows up and comes to save the day, and then something weird happens. I'm still not entirely sure how that all went down, and like I told you, Tolkien won't tell you. He did not like allegory. He did not like one-to-one comparisons too much, even though he now and then would lift a little bit of a veil behind that, but he didn't want to become the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe with his work, and he approached it very differently. But in any case, Glorfindel shows up. This is Glorfindel, who dwells in the house of Elrond, because that's just how everyone talks. And hail and well met at last, said the elf lord to Frodo. I was sent from Rivendell to look for you. We feared that you were in danger upon the road. So maybe, could that be that summons and calling? I don't know. That because it's all connected, that the elves had a feeling, the Force or something.
The Force.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And then he's calling upon Elbereth and...
Yes, but you have to remember, they were the watchers, they were the keepers of this world for a long time, even though they pulled themselves back and they were fading. You could say it was the Force. They have the supernatural powers to see or to feel what's going on in the world.
And especially in their own lands.
Yeah.
So if evil tries to enter their lands, they know.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and Glorfindel was a watcher on it, and that they would also know. Yeah. Good point. I just think it's just awesome. And that they... Was it Glorfindel? You shall ride my horse. I will shorten the stirrups up to saddle skirts. But you need not fear. My horse will not let any rider fall that I command him to bear. And that's something else, too. It's like the elves had a kind of a supernatural connection with animals and stuff. Like, almost like they were familiars. Yeah. And it was a big old white horse.
Yeah, imagine that. Instead of Arwen, it was
Yeah.
just the horse.
Yeah.
I get why they gave that part to Orwin though, because she's not even in the books almost. She's just mentioned for the most part. So I think it's good they gave her something to do in the movies. Otherwise, it would just be Aragorn has a girlfriend somewhere.
Yeah,
You
which
know.
is
Yeah.
kind of the way it is in the book, because all we really see of Arwen at all is coming up when they're all in Rivendell and they're all having dinner and they're like, "Hey, Aragorn's talking to some chick. She's an elf." Okay, and then they all move on with their lives. That's all we really see.
Mhm.
And if they did
Yeah.
have to insert Arwen in something, I far rather that they did it here rather than what they were planning to do with making her this big warrior and suddenly turning up at Helm's Deep and all of that.
Yeah, and they did it in the right way because they did include the white horse
Yeah.
and everything that did transpire in the book.
Yeah.
And
Exactly. Yeah. And because Glorfindel isn't like a huge character later, this is just basically his moment. You can forgive them, but it was still he's just still badass because I really felt in the books that when you were around the elves, you had this feeling that you were really among ethereal beings. Like they really were different. They did their best in the movie, but just that you felt like you were just in touch with the supernatural every time you came across them.
I think they it's hard to convey that without getting overboard with
Yeah.
it to try to bring that in. And they did a good job of it because uh, the music alone made you feel that
Yeah.
when they get to Rivendell, Lothlorien,
Yeah.
any of those places. Um, you knew something was very different, and that's where the film score can make all the difference.
Yeah.
When they did make the movie for them to try to communicate that.
Yeah, I'll grant you that. And they did kind of have Arwen looking with this bright light around her as she shows up and is speaking the elven tongue to Frodo. Oh, Shane Nolan says Legolas a few times mentioned the hearing of water and stones and trees speaking to him. Yes, exactly. Yeah, they were very connected and in tune with that. Well, and in the extended edition, when they're seeing the elves singing as they're heading off to the west, that was also a good ethereal
Mhm.
thing. I I'm just saying that I just reading it, you're just so immersed into the world and you just feel like a little bit of a veil has been removed and you're looking into these
Well,
other beings.
that's like when they had the feast and stuff. That's where you really feel that.
Mm-hmm.
When he goes on to explain after the feast and they all go into the hall and then they start singing.
Yes. Yes, exactly, precisely. Yeah. Well, and then the the conf what they have here in the book that was not in the movies was that Frodo actually confronts the ring race. They catch up to him, and with a great effort, Frodo sits up and brandishes his sword. "Go back," he cried. "Go back to the land of Mordor and follow me no more." The
Yeah,
writers halted.
they gave that line to Sam a bit on Weathertop
Yes.
in the
Hmm.
movie.
Mhm. Mm-hmm. Plus, they also gave Arwen that when she crosses the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, she taunts
Basically.
him. Yeah. Yeah, if you want them, come and take him. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the riders halted, but Frodo had not the power of Bombadil. And this goes back to Tom Bombadil, that there was something special about him. So his enemies laughed at him with a harsh and chilling laughter. Come back, they called, to Mordor. We will take you. And then Frodo whispers, go back. So Frodo is showing some very strong will and some strong courage here, but he just doesn't have the oomph and the power to take it. And he's also on his halfway to the great beyond by this point. And then they and then they're so creepy, they go, the ring, the ring. And their leader urged his horse forward into the water. At this point, Frodo says, by Elbereth and Luthien the Fair, again calling on these ancient people, you shall have neither the ring nor me. And Frodo then felt his tongue was struck dumb as the leader was coming toward him. His sword broke and fell out of his shaking hand. And at that moment there came a roar and a rushing, a noise of loud waters rolling many stones. And that's the big water that sweeps away the ring race. So it was actually Frodo who calls upon Elbereth and Luthien that summons that big water thing. And that was pretty badass. I liked that.
But did he?
Did he what?
Did he summon it, or was it later on where you find out who has control over all that in Rivendell?
Yes and no, but I mean, but he calls upon.
It's more like he sounded the alarm.
Yeah, because what
we're. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Well, because we were talking a little bit about that earlier, because when they keep calling upon Elbereth and all that, like, is it actually doing something? And whether it's something that's connecting the elves or some cosmic being or whatever it is.
Well, he does see like a glowing figure, doesn't he? But that's Glorfindel. We're told that later.
Yeah.
It's Glorfindel
but
who shows up, does it?
But you also find out later that Elrond controls the waters.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So was it, like you said, a call for help that the elves hear?
Yeah. I'm just throwing this out there that I've just been seeing this pattern, and Tolkien didn't put a word in these things that he didn't mean, that weren't meaning something or something that he felt needed to be in his story. So that's where I'm just saying, I just find that interesting that this is what the third time they've called upon specifically Elbereth. And this time around, he said Luthien the Fair, probably because he's like, oh yeah, I remember that chick that they were singing about. I'll throw in another elf, or throw in I'll raise you a Luthien to my Elbereth.
Yeah. But that could be because later on you hear what Elrond controls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and as Keck is saying here, yeah, Elrond and English didn't get enough out of the embellishes. Yeah, just that it all just seems connected. Or it's just darn good lore building. I don't know. And I like the fact that Tolkien, as I said, does not spoon feed us this. He just tells the tale, and doesn't try to. He just inhabits the tale.
But that's true, and it also sparks your, like you said, interest, and everyone perceives it in different ways.
Oh, precisely.
And this is a thing in fantasy books.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as there's a mystery, any kind of mystery really, the readers will want to know what it is. I mean, the Game of Thrones books are full of them, and even the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a good mystery or something is one worth having. When I said mystery, because what you were just saying reminded me of the mystery box where you have someone like J.J. Abrams who abuses that, and that's all he has are these mystery boxes that are just empty and hollow.
But basically, he just comes up with mysteries and no solution.
Exactly, which is easy to do,
Yeah.
and he just builds upon these things are inviting you to go deeper. And Tolkien does embellish on some of this in his letters, but even then, he's often very reluctant to get very specific.
I always wondered about the mystery boxes. I never quite understood that. It was like, what, you put things in a box and then you find them, or does someone else put them in the box and he finds them?
Well, he used it as a metaphor where it's like, imagine a box that in your story you're placing before them, like there's a box and everyone wants to know what's in the mystery box. You're like a magician or something, and he says that as a tour. He did a TED talk about it, explaining it.
Well, I'm not impressed. The only one that I was ever impressed with that did that was David Bowie, because he would take phrases, he would write phrases, make them into scraps of paper, mix them all up, and a lot of his songs were made from the scraps of paper, if you ever listen to his lyrics and stuff, but he was very good at it. He would make his songs from that. Oh. I didn't know if anybody knew that about David Bowie.
That's a good point.
But he would create songs like that.
Yeah. With the help of drugs, too. Well, okay, so there we go. The only good mystery box is if you're a freaking genius like David Bowie. I'm looking up here right now. I'm trying to see if there's an actual letter that Tolkien talks specifically to this. It looks like, yeah, I don't know. I would have to go through and say more detail to see if.
Well, maybe he leaves it to the reader.
Yes, he does. In many cases, he does, but sometimes he will say that there is some analogous stuff going on, but it does not really come to mind about where he's talking about Elbereth in particular. He does mention about Galadriel. Like Galadriel does have some applicability to some stuff. We'll get to that when we get there. But I was looking to see if I could through my notes to see about Elbereth and if he mentions that, because many people would write him letters. The back before we could do it on Twitter and stuff and ask him questions, and sometimes he would and sometimes he wouldn't, but as you said, for the most part he would leave it to people's imagination. I think a good example of how he would deal with this is something that Stieg had given us in our group chat, an interview with Tolkien, where the interviewer was trying a little too hard to call Frodo a Christ figure. And you saw how he was kind of like, well, no, and then he almost tried to take the words out of his mouth and say, yes, as a Christ figure. And he's like, I didn't say he was a Christ figure. And he did it in such a polite British way, but he's saying, no, I'm not there. I don't do that. And there were several reasons why he didn't, some personal reasons actually why he didn't want to do it, because he felt that kind of cheapened his own faith. And he also felt it cheapened the story. He did not like allegory. He really did not. But there is some commentary that he did do, and I might do a little more research on that. Going back to the mystery box, life on Mars. Yeah. Hey, that is actually one of my favorite songs ever. I think that is an amazing song. So yay to the mystery box. And I think that this is a very good place to stop here. We're now getting into book 2, and there's so much stuff that's going to hit with the mini meetings and all that. And we've been going for an hour and a half or so. So I'm going to start winding down this party, but anything up to everything we've talked about, including from last week, from the beginning of the book all the way to where we are today, is there anything that you, Lady Toriel, would like to add or reflect upon or conclude upon?
No, because Tolkien is, what can you say about the man? I mean, and his written word, it's perfection in itself. If you love words, if you love a good story, it's complete in every way.
Mm-hmm.
With the history, with the lore, with the languages, it's a love letter, actually.
Uh-huh.
To me, that's what it is. It's a love letter to everything that he wanted our world to be.
Wow. That's perfect. Well said. And like I said, Steve, I like to leave things kind of open-ended at the end. Like, is there anything else you'd like to add? Say how much you hate the songs, the dancing.
No, it's just personally the songs and all took me a little bit out of the story every time they showed up.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it's still a 10 out of 10 book.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it has everything you'd want from a fantasy story, really.
Yeah. And that's interesting that you say that, because what brings you out of the book is one of the very things that brings me into the book. Maybe it's because I'm a musician, or maybe because I'm a girly girl.
Let me correct myself. It doesn't take me out of the book, but it's just like I said, they tend to sing at weird times. You know, and they sing a lot. You know.
I don't. Wait, if you just take it random and flip through the book, you'll see that they make them little stanzas, and you'll see stanza, 2 pages, 3 pages, stanza. Oh my God.
They have a lot of history to tell in song.
Yeah. Well, like I said, they didn't have podcasts. They had to sing it to each other. I'm just sorry, go ahead.
And basically, a lot of people remember songs more than they do stories. So, I mean, you think even now with The Witcher, okay?
Yeah.
The Bard, he created the songs, and people, right, wrong, or indifferent, if they embellish them, it's still a song, and people will remember it more than they do a story.
Good point. You're exactly right. And I think that's why people used to use it before we had our technology. And anyone will tell you, if you're studying for a test, one of the best ways to remember it is to make up a rhyme or a song about it, because it will get stuck in your head and you won't forget it. I remember doing that with the German dative cases for when I was in school. Did it to the Blue Danube. Außer bei Mitternachtszeit von zu. Still remember it. So remember, it's like, what are the dative ones? So yeah, a song will get burned in your head. That's why commercials use them so much too. I just am really loving revisiting and really just focusing on the books, because I think even myself, I saw the movie so many times, I forgot some of those things that I first read when I read these in the 90s, about it is a different world. It's not Peter Jackson's world that we were seeing in what let me rephrase that. We were seeing Peter Jackson's world of the Lord of the Rings in the movies. While it was a very fantastic and faithful adaptation, at the end of the day, it's not Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. So getting to kind of sit and sink back into some of these things and visiting characters that I haven't thought about in years, like Goldberry and Bombadil and Glorfindel and Gildor, it's fun. And I can't urge enough that if you haven't already read The Lord of the Rings, oh my gosh, you've got a treat ahead of you, whether you like songs or not. Okay, well, I want to say a nice thank you to everyone that showed up. Ryan showed up at the beginning. Tommy, as always, a mod with the most. Shane, you're always here from beginning to end. Thank you. Really appreciate you. And your insights to everything. We had Keck. It jumped on me a bit here. I'm trying to get back up here. If I missed anyone, I am very sorry. Oh, Darius Munchausen showed up, and many, many others. I appreciate you, and I hope you're enjoying these. And please stay tuned. We might be back next week. But it might be on a different time, because both Lady Gravemaster and I have a prior commitment to a first Saturday stream on the Nerdfather, where we often do talk about the Lord of the Rings in our faith and fantasy discussions from a different point of view. But I will keep updated on the stream, and if you haven't already liked or subscribed to my channel, that will also keep you updated. What does it say here? Steeg's old commercials. Okay, yeah, thank you. Steeg's old commercials will stick in your head also. Yes.
Oh, I actually uploaded 6 today, I think. And
I know.
2 or 3 the other day, so there's a lot of new stuff there now.
And some of them definitely are stuck in your head, and I'm not sure in a good way. Oh boy. But in any case, Lady Toriel, where can we find you?
You can find me on my channel. It's Lady Toriel, or on Twitter, that's Lady Toriel1. I haven't been as active lately, but hopefully that will change pretty soon. I want to thank you, Teresa, for putting up with me trying to get on to the stream. Maybe one day StreamYards will fix this problem for us phone users. And thank you, chat, for putting up with my in and out there. Yeah, I was just flitting around in the woods there, checking for spiders, shall we say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no worries. We were cursed. I was cursed. I was having microphone troubles at the first half, and I finally had to go fetch another one and reset it up. So, what was the ring race where they were keeping themselves busy? But you're always a great guest, always with great insight. Thank you very much, lady. And Steeg, where can we find you or not find you?
Well, you can find me on OD Star Wars on Thursdays for the coffee chat, and sometimes on Wednesdays on Maura's channel, Jade Shadow. We talk about the cringy things that has happened this week, and it's a gold mine for that these days.
Yeah, it's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, and and the Game of Thrones book talk is put on hold until October because Sporking's wife is having a kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it, really. Sometimes I'll pop on this and that, whatever, if I'm awake.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, cool. Yes. Well, thank you, Steve. You can find me, of course, here on Miss Martin Muses. You can find me on Twitter, Teresa2_Martin, and on Nina's Sunday Night Hang. Sometimes Steve joins us there too tomorrow night. I think we're going to be having one, so stay tuned to Nina Infinity's channel for that. And I just hop around where I'm invited. I always enjoy hopping on streams and sharing what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. One of them is, of course, Babylon 5, which I'm doing with Open Airlock Policy, Tim, and Matt. Steeg's nemesis, Matt Wilkins. So if y'all haven't watched Babylon 5 and you want to have some non-SJW entertainment, go for that. So, Glenzer, thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you all. Shane appreciates the blonde in the library and the fighting one. I'm sure you do. Thank you. Am I on season 4? Yes, we are on season 4, Babylon 5. So stay tuned. I will share on my Twitter when we work out a time to watch it, and of course it'll be on Tim's Open Airlock Policies channel. So make sure you're subscribed to him and following him on Twitter. Well, have a great evening, afternoon, morning, everyone. Have a great evening, afternoon, and morning, and be certain if you're around Stieg, do not burst into song.
Yes, and do meth.